I want to throw in some F-bombs, but I'm not gonna. I don't want to. I don't want to sauce up the episode a little too effing much. But damn, that's good stuff. Welcome back to the rounds with SEMD. I want you to think about something. Most marketing looks really good on paper. The reports are clean, your traffic's rising, your dashboards look so beautiful. But here's the question we're going to explore a little bit today, and nobody wants to really answer, is all of that effort actually making you money? You should be asking that question on a regular basis. So welcome to the rounds. I'm your host, Sean Rains. Today, well, I'm joined with a couple of my favorite guys in the industry, Mike Donovan and Cody Jerry. We're going to cut through some of these big illusions in this part of the business. There is definitely a gap here. You need to be asking that question. Guys, how are you today?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Really well. Thanks for asking.
Are you ready to talk about this, like all the metrics that mislead dealers and all the wasted ad spend and how many agency models are just broken pieces of crap and what actually drives results, all the no fluff, no theory stuff?
It's what we live and breathe, so it's going to be therapeutic just to say it out loud.
That's the best answer. Well, all right, then let's get right into it. Why do you guys believe that most marketing reports are really just designed to confuse rather than clarify the performance?
Well, what I've noticed throughout all these years and a lot of meetings I've been able to be on with other marketing companies is that most of the marketing meetings aren't built for clarity. They're really built just to make you feel like you're getting your money's worth when you're actually not getting your money's worth. That's like their whole goal. It's almost like a ruse. So if I show you impressions, clicks, and traffic, I can always make it look like something's working. You know what I mean? So it's easy.
Awesome.
But when
So
you're
true.
actually, if people are clinging to the wrong things, it's all you're doing is trying to create a picture of something that's not actually happening.
Mm.
The KPIs people cling to are things like search impression share, click-through rate, frequency, and impressions. We see that with a lot of companies, like consultants and different things, and none of those tell you a story of how you're actually making money. And from my opinion, the problem is simple. Most agencies don't tier their work to real outcomes because that's where they actually get exposed. So what they're just concentrating on things where it can't be brought back to sales or anything to that nature. It's just like throwing all this stuff at you so you just don't ask questions. And so and they're just trying to overwhelm you with data, content pages, charts everywhere. There's companies out there that are the worst SEO companies you'll ever meet, but they have fancy charts and content that they're putting out 100 pieces of content per month and all these metrics that don't matter. And it just blows my mind that dealers are buying into it because they're spending a lot of money on it. I mean, a lot of times they're spending freaking $40,000, $50,000 a year on this dumb stuff that drives me nuts. So it's hard because you just want to shake them and be like, dude, it's not real. It's not real. But at the end of it, you still don't know. You're as a dealer, you're in these meetings and you're like, did this $40,000 a year earn me any new customers? And that's not by accident. That's by design.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these companies want you to think they're the coolest thing in the world. Because if this is a deal, is that if it was simple, dude, I don't know, everybody would be able to do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't need experts. You'd just be like, right? You wouldn't. It wouldn't cost as much money. You're right. If it was easy, everyone would do it themselves.
The way I look into it when I jump into these things, I do all my research before the meeting, and my main question myself is this working or is it not working? If it's working, then awesome. We'll find ways to make it better. If it's not working, we got to come up with a solution on that call. We can't waste it. So, and the way we look at it like, are people taking action? Are they becoming leads? Are those leads turning into revenue? I know it's weird to ask those questions, and it's not weird. It's not supposed to be weird. That's the
Right.
actual you're supposed to be asking.
Absolutely.
So, everything else is secondary, in my opinion. It's important to know you're not selling SEO, you're not selling AdWords, you're not selling Facebook. You're selling an opportunity for dealers to be able to sell more vehicles. That's what you're selling. So that's what the meeting should be about. And if you're not being able to clearly answer that question, I think that it's not a meeting; it's a distraction, in my opinion.
Very interesting. Cody, do you have any add-on thoughts there?
Oh, for sure. I was just in a call, I think it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, where we're evaluating this video strategy for, essentially what they're arguing for is that they're running branding video. And they showed all these impressions, showed all these engagements, and they actually pull in sales data. In 3 months and 60 grand, they sold one car, according to their own data. But if you're selling off of impressions, like say, look at all these impressions, look how many all these households, look at all the stuff we did. Like we have lots of things that we did. You would think it was potentially good, but the end all be all KPI, that Mike's talking about is, did it sell cars? And their own data says no, it did not. So when we go further and we look at the dealership's market share, which has been dropping year over year in their own zip code, so their own backyard, they've lost sales to other people more than they ever have. And if this is branding and this is supposed to help more people recognize them and search for them, we didn't see it in Google Search Console. There's less people searching for them by brand, and there's less people actively buying from them now. So the branding did not work, but we were in the call where they were arguing up and down that no, our branding's working and you shouldn't change anything. So it just didn't make any sense. Like we had this massive pushback of, no, the strategy's not working. And they came back and said, no, it's working as designed. So we said, okay, bye.
It's like a perfect example of somebody who's been taught to believe something that's wrong or a method that's wrong or flawed. And then they just dig in and like, nope, that's the way it is. They don't want to hear anything else. It's amazing. I mean, Mike, you did a really good job of kind of articulating what a lot of people talk about or refer to as vanity metrics.
Yeah.
And then Cody, your share there made me think of, and I feel a little bit bad about it, but I also thought that I was advising people the right way all those years ago, when the main thing, especially on the paid media side of this, was such a fast way to make your phone ring or to get some leads in a bucket. And no one really even was overly harsh in how they qualified or looked at the quality of the leads that they were generating themselves. But we kind of put everybody's expectation in the ground as the value is, how many impressions did you get for that low amount of money? Hey, you spent $5,000 and we got you 300,000 impressions.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it from a marketing and sales perspective, we were basically trying to help people never think about, if I spend $1 in this platform, how many dollars do I make? If I spend one, do I make two? If I spend one, do I make three?
It's
right?
the ruse.
It's the ruse that you mentioned. Yeah. So instead of I spend $1, do I get another? Do I make $1? Do I make $2? No, it's I spend $1. How many impressions did I get? What was my click-through rate? And what was my cost per click? Right?
Yeah.
And to be this far down the road and still be talking about it, I have to ask this question. What are today's the most common vanity metrics that agencies are relying on? And Mike, from your perspective, I want to start with you. Why would you consider them to be misleading?
Well, so the big deal on this. So first off, what blows my mind is that all these people that are talking about being the head of the curve on AEO and sign up for our AEO and GEO freaking program, the metrics they're still using are the same that all the other ineffective people are using. It's like they're stuck in 2005 claiming to be in 2027. You know what I mean? And so,
yeah.
And it's crazy that the vanity metrics were the same back then as they are now that people are still using that aren't working. So things that we see a lot are like impression share, frequency, impressions, and click-through rate. And the problem with that is none of those tell you if you're actually making money. So we'll sit in on meetings where somebody will show that their impressions are up by 40%, but the business is doing worse. And you can see where, the clicks are going through the roof and there's so many clicks, but the sales are still flat. People are like, well, why is that happening? Well, because the metrics measure singular activity, not the big picture. I mean, it seems like common sense, right?
Yeah.
They tell you people saw something. They tell you people that you may have people may have interacted with something, but they don't tell you if anyone actually took a meaningful action. So it's just a weird thing. And a lot of agencies get trapped in that. And the good part is that they have OEM programs so that they can have tons of clients. So it makes it to where they can always make money doing things that don't work. And so for me, if I was one of those companies, if I want to look good, all I have to focus on or have the conversation revolve around is look at the traffic, look at the engagement, look how cheap the clicks are. And when you do that, they're like, oh my gosh, it's so awesome. We must be doing something wrong because we're not selling vehicles. But it's not, it makes it to where I'm just showing this picture and saying, this is the best thing that you could possibly be doing right now. But none of that answers the only question that actually matters. Did this turn into actual real leads? And did we make any money off of those leads? Why does it have to feel weird that that's a question that I'm asking? That's why we concentrate on something that we call key events. It's like form fills, calls, anything that's real actions, anything where you're actually connecting with a client or a potential client or potential sale. That's all we concentrate on. And because at the end of the day, people are spread out everywhere, looking for things and looking for information, that kind of thing. And so, if your results aren't driving traffic, then they're not results. You're wasting money. And if your meetings are built around that, it's not helping you. It's just a way for them. It's a way for marketing companies just to justify you spending that money with them, even though it's not really anything. So, yeah, that's my point of view.
Cody, what do you think?
So a real world example for me is something that's going to be so obvious that you're going to be like, Cody, how is this even a data point? But what we're seeing right now is everybody's basically bought into vehicle ads, and that's where they're putting all their money. We actually went back and made model search ad groups, which is so funny that we're swapping around. And the click-through rate's been the same as always been with those. Click-through rates around 5 to 10%, depending on the model, how many searches and who else is bidding and all that jazz. And, that's not the interesting part. The interesting part, maybe that you're 5 times more likely to get a click for somebody doing that search on a regular search ad than you are on a vehicle ad. That's probably a tidbit that should be called out because you can get 5 times the traffic from your regular search ads because of the vehicle ads right now. But the interesting thing, and this goes back to Mike's point where, click-through rate is a vanity metric. Like your first reaction is, how the hell is click-through rate a vanity metric? And what we did to these vehicle ad groups is we added site links for all the different trim levels. Our click-through rate didn't change at all. It's the same exact as it was before. But all of a sudden, those cars are actually selling. Things that people weren't buying frequently that were just not leaving the lot. We added a second step where you can go directly to the trim level or a specific feature like moonroof, heated seats, things like that, making a site link so it's easier so customers can find exactly what they actually want to buy. And by adding that second step, all of a sudden the cars are selling. Our click-through rate didn't change, our cost per click didn't change, none of the vanity metrics changed, but now the cars are actually selling because you helped the consumer get to where they wanted faster. They're still going to click on your ad, just you actually help them instead of landing them on a generic page, because the Ajax filter that you have on the side of the page, it's so broken most of the time, and it sucks to filter. It's just not a good user experience, and that's something we've been talking about more internally, is what can we do to improve that UX. But yeah, click-through rate is a vanity metric. It's probably not one that you jump out and be like, oh my gosh, there's no way. But like literally, if you're not making it easier for the customer to find the exact car that in their brain they want, they're probably going to change once they get to the lot, of course, because a lot of people switch cars once they get there. But if you can help them find the right car faster, you're going to earn them.
Mm-hmm. There's so much gamesmanship and all of, especially in the digital marketing world. And it's, you guys are doing a great job of helping the verticals that you serve, certainly automotive and beyond, understand that from like a B2C perspective. This happens in B2B as well. Like you'll have companies, who are a marketing team celebrates, man, we had a goal to get, 350 marketing qualified leads, MQLs this quarter or this month, and we hit our goal, and sales didn't hit their goal. It's the same thing in just, the B2B realm as we see in B2C. And it's because the agencies are gaming the system and making people focus on what we're talking about here is vanity metrics. That term has been out for a long time, and how people kind of distort and make people think in one direction that they like. It's like a feel good. It's almost like an emotional manipulation that this is as much as I need to know. Okay, we're checking the boxes, but it's absent of what's happening in real results. Did it really move the cars? And you both of you are giving these examples of this is the actual tweak that you need to make, or this is the actual corrective action, or the way to actually build in a way that will get you the result, not just the traffic. You said a couple minutes ago, Mike, that something around the traffic piece, and I think a lot of people would look at SEMD and say, yeah, well, we're going to come to you and we want you to give us all this traffic. But you guys are saying, well, that's great, and we know how to do that, but we want you to evaluate us on the results. That's essentially what you said a couple minutes ago, Mike, which is like so critical.
Yeah.
And just that thinking alone aligns you with the reality that you should be focused on versus all the things that just look good on the dashboard or in the report, but are, I think you said it already, Mike, it just kind of justifies their existence. Well, so let me pitch you guys a dealership type of question. If a dealership owner, a dealer principal, maybe even a very involved, maybe a part owner GM, if they could only be tracking a few metrics, I think we're at the point where I should ask you guys, what would you say they should actually focus on?
Well, in my opinion, if a dealership owner or principal can only track a few metrics, the order I would go in is first, how many real leads are we actually generating? Not clicks, not traffic, actual actions. Because to me, it's about the dollars. So yeah, not traffic, not actual actions, calls, form fills, people raising their hand. So second would be, what's the cost per lead? Because you can generate tons of leads, but if you're overpaying for them, it's not going to work. You're going to drown yourself. Because people get caught up in that a lot of times. I'll let them. It's something. It should be part of the conversation before you do business with someone. Is how much is this? Do we expect the lead to be? What's our high point? What's our low point? And if that, you should factor that in before you ever spend any money with a marketing company. And then third, what's happening after the lead? Are they turning into appointments? Are they turning into sales? Because that's where most people are paying attention. And and that's where for me, that's where the truth is. Is it turning into actual dollar bills?
Any areas to add, Cody?
Oh, absolutely. So a really good situation is a dealership where at the point where this conversation happened, we were just running Facebook ads for them, and we kept on getting email. We need more leads. We need more leads. And in our minds, we're generating 40 leads a day off Facebook ads because they have a very large budget. It's a used car store, so they're just popping off. And we're like, how could you need more leads? Like should way exceed what you're trying to do for sales, right? Eventually they added the caveat, good leads. and we went back and looked at the good leads and matched that data back, we realized that we were getting a lot of people who are not able to buy a car. And by having that real conversation of good leads that they can actually talk to, who can actually buy, we're able to go reevaluate the strategy. So now we're not generating as many total leads as we were, but we're generating far more good leads. So we went from about 20 good leads per day out of all that, which is a big difference of total leads versus good leads to 50 good leads a day. And by doing that, by having real actual customers who actually can buy a car right now, talking to the dealership, they're able to go and start hitting their sales goals. Because, in our data agency world, we're like, I don't know what you're talking about. We're crushing it. Like all of our metrics say, again, cost per click's great. We're at like 15 cents. Cost per lead is like $6. Like all these things, we're crushing it. I don't know what you're talking about. And no, it wasn't having the real world impact because, just as Mike said, even though those sound good and what everybody talks about, they can definitely be vanity metrics because, if it doesn't match reality, then it is all just vanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a good segue into the next thing that I want to talk about, and that is where dealers are typically wasting the most ad spend.
Well, in my opinion, where dealerships are typically wasting the most amount of ad spend is with these OEM providers that are out there that are, in their sales pitch, they're claiming that their SEO and their paid search and their meta all work together for one goal. That's what their sales pitch says. But what their meetings say is that we only concentrate on making you increase your ad spend every time something goes wrong because we don't know what's going on with SEO. We don't know what's going on with beta. We don't understand the data. So we want you to spend more money. If you spend $20,000 more, you're going to get more vehicles and you're going to be rich and you're getting lots more money. So dealerships aren't usually losing money because they're not spending enough. They're losing it because they're spending it without control. The biggest thing that we see as a team comes down to three things. The first is overinvesting. So a lot of times you're overinvesting in what's already working organically. So, that just sparked it for you because you're original old school SEO guy, but overinvesting with what's already working organically. A lot of ad platforms will push budget into the same high performing keywords or audiences over and over again. So you end up just overpaying for traffic that you're already getting. So that's one big thing. That's one of the big things that we learned, that Cody learned, several years ago when we were creating our AdWords strategy, is just going after the highest converting terms rather than all this wasted ad spend that's going around. It's like people should go to jail for it. Okay, sorry. And second is chasing cheap metrics instead of real outcomes. Low cost per click looks good. High traffic looks good. But if those people aren't turning into leads, it's just ridiculousness. It's just throwing money out the window. Mm-hmm. So, and then the third is a lack of structure and ownership. And this is something we take very seriously. We make sure that there is one person that takes ownership for all of the results for each race. So Google, we have AdWords, we have one person that takes responsibility for all the results for all the accounts. So we have one person that's accountable. Same for Meta, same for SEO. So it's about being able, because if anytime you don't have one person that's in control, nobody's in control. So you have to have structure and ownership. Campaigns get messy, no clear strategy, no one actually owns the performance. This happens all over the place. So when something breaks or underperforms, it just sits there burning money. So when you're not, and that's what happens all over the place right now. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, wasted ad spend isn't usually one big mistake. It's a bunch of small inefficiencies that add up. So if you're clear on where the leads are coming from, what they're costing you, and whether they're turning into sales, you're not optimizing, you're guessing. And guessing is expensive.
There's a lot of guessing. A lot of guessing.
Yeah.
Cody, is there a lot of guessing?
Oh, beyond belief. Like, as Mike was talking, it was just making me think about this. Facebook strategy that we saw where we're running part of the budget and another agency is running a different part of the budget because, we're supposed to be in different buckets. But their Facebook strategy has a conversion rate of 0.04%, and it has for a couple months. That would be rough. I don't even know how I would feel if I was looking at that metric and be like, are we doing anything? But
Barely.
they're selling off of impressions. And that's not the only agency. We just had a client try to get pitched for Facebook ads, and they were literally selling on CPM. It was going to be $40 CPM, which if anybody doesn't know, this cost per 1,000 impressions on Facebook, even with it filtered or a really narrow audience, is like $10. So the agency is about to pocket $30 for 1,000 impressions, which the fact that they even got that deal presented to the dealer principal is that salesperson is amazing. I have no idea how they sold the person on it, but it was shocking to see. And just running the numbers, and that was a response. And not only that, it was Facebook and TikTok, which TikTok cost per 1,000 impressions is even cheaper. So straight up, you're profiting at least 75% of that cost, if not more. And I was like, good for you to pitch that and good for you to sell that. But thankfully, we shut it down. But Facebook, it's a lot of impressions. Technically, Facebook is a display platform. We don't talk about it like that. We talk about, clicks, traffic, and all that. But it is technically impression based, and you could optimize for impressions, which is what they were going to do. So that's the biggest ad spend waste to me, is like focusing on Facebook just for impressions, because you can generate leads, you can generate real customers, you can generate real conversations, like all that's very doable. The second would be Google ads. With Google Performance Max, it is technically a broad match strategy. So if you're not paying attention to your search terms, it could be almost all branded. And we've seen this a bunch of times where you basically just ate all your organic traffic with paid search, and it looks like you're crushing it, but you're not. You just transferred it from your organic bucket, which was free, to, spending, in this case, $3,000 for your own name. And if you're not mitigating that or controlling it, like Mike was saying, then it's just money that you're burning, unfortunately. And I would say on the SEO side, even though it's not ad spend per se, it's new content for the sake of new content. We've fallen into this trap as well. We have really strong SOPs against this, where we don't agree to content for the sake of adding pages, and our contracts do not state that we're going to create X pages. Because the reality is, if you need 100 pages on your website to cover a strategy, we're just going to accelerate that and get it done. Like, that's the way we work, is if we find a gap, we fill it. We don't promise 10 pages per month, knowing full well that you may need 200 pages on your website. And we're 20 months away from you having a good SEO strategy. Like, it just doesn't make sense. A lot of times it's just fluffy content. I posted this on LinkedIn the other day, where one of our strategies to help a company on SEO was to delete 200 blog posts. They thankfully did that internally, but somebody's question was, what is the other agency saying? Which is a really great question of, if you wrote all these blog posts, how much traffic is it actually generating? Did it do anything for you? And that is so frequent, that you're paying for new content for the sake of paying for new content and not any additional value to the dealership.
Yeah, that's one of those old, everybody's got to do it this way. We're going to keep doing it this way because we've always been doing it this way, and we're never going to question whether or not this is stupid or not.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Good thoughts there. Mike, anything else on that one you want to add?
No.
Well, so I think it's very interesting when you think about it. There's a lot of places where dealers are just absolutely wasting tons and tons of cash. I want to know, like, maybe it should just be, maybe the answer is it's everything. Maybe it's everything. Gosh. It's frustrating that there are so many companies, some of them living under the kind of the protection or it's like a bit of a false narrative that if they're in certain programs that they were truly vetted as a solid vendor. And that is so not true. And then they get covered by co-op dollars, and they get another layer of insulation that, it just kind of gives dealers, it gives dealers a false impression of the truth. What are they going to do from that point? So Man, this is interesting. So next thing I want to ask you guys is, like, where do you think dealers are getting a lot of these things wrong? Like, where can they actually snap back into making better decisions?
As far as taking Google Ads, Meta, and SEO, and how they all compare and how they work, and um, when it comes to driving traffic or just traffic. Well, for me, to simplify that, in my opinion, Google Ads is the most targeted path to revenue. If you want more information on that, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I can dig in. But I'm just going to keep it simple on this one. On SEO, it's the most efficient long-term revenue that works as a long-term asset to your business as a true investment. That's one of the truest things that I've said as well, is that when I have conversations with new clients that are signing up for SEO, I'm like, as long as you don't let people mess up what we are adding, this will be an asset to your business for the duration of the ownership of this business. Like, it'll keep growing and adding relevance to you as a company as a whole. So it's something that actually is a respectable investment. And then on the Meta side, I consider that the fastest path to revenue. So we're getting the right message for the right people at the right time. And even people that don't know they're in market, they'll get, there's people that are in market that don't know they're in market on Facebook. You can get that message in front of them when they don't even know they're in market. So they're like, were you listening to my conversations? And that kind of thing. And so, that's my opinion on those. So it's Google Ads, most targeted, SEO, most efficient, and actual asset, and Meta, just the fastest path to revenue. And the mistake that most dealerships make is expecting all three of those to perform the same exact way. They just don't. And it's the same thing. Yeah, it's like anytime you're trying to manage those things, you try to manage it. A lot of people try to manage them all the same exact way. They're all different animals. Just as like in social media, you can't treat every single social media platform the same exact way. They all have different purposes. So each one plays a different role. And if you understand that, and you start judging them the wrong way with the wrong metrics and start using them the right way, it can make you a lot of money. A lot of money.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this one, Cody?
I agree with Mike that Facebook's the fastest way to more revenue. And the reason why is it's most siloed. Where you're looking at paid search and organic search, like they overlap each other. True. So you can accidentally take one from one bucket and put in the other. But with Facebook, it's usually on its own. Like, you do have a retargeting strategy that's involved, but it should be a small portion of your budget. So you're going after people who, because Facebook pixels are on AutoTrader, Cars.com, Car Gurus. Facebook knows who's on these websites and what they're shopping and looking at, because all that data is being transferred. So when you're advertising on Facebook, it's a very siloed strategy. It's going to have to go after customers who are actively shopping on all these different websites. Even people who are just starting to research on Forward, Edmunds, all these different places. So I think it's the fastest way to additional revenue. There's also a saturation point where you're probably not going to get that much more revenue out of Facebook at a certain budget. So like, you don't want to be dropping 30 grand on Facebook. It's just not going to be able to pay dividends up to that amount unless you have a lot of different strategies targeting a whole bunch of different audiences that are all filtered out and together. But, just base level, you can still spend quite a bit into Facebook. I wouldn't count on it to carry your whole business. SEO, I think it's your baseline. As SEO is how your dealership's going to do from day to day. Because if you don't show up well locally, somebody's searching for a car dealership near me, car dealerships, city, state, like, wherever you're located, Akron, Ohio, for example, car dealerships, Akron, Ohio. If you don't show up there, you're missing customers. So I think SEO is this very strong baseline of how many cars you're going to sell at any given month. That's kind of your low point. If your other platforms aren't performing, SEO is going to be the one that carries you there. And that also means that you can't rely on a strategy that's strictly for OEM terms, because the number of people searching for Jeeps in your market is going to be directly related to how much you're spending on streaming and video and all these other platforms to build interest. So if your whole strategy is based off of OEM terms only, your SEO strategy is not really an SEO strategy. It's just a strategy to capture everything else that marketing generated. It's not going to gain more customers for you. It's going to capture everything that something else generated, because it's not generating additional interest unless you're doing full SEO, targeting used car terms, car dealer terms, service terms, all these things. If it's not an all-encompassing SEO strategy, you're just capturing what something else did. And Google Ads, just like Mike said, it's the most targeted strategy. If you have a whole bunch of Ford Mavericks in stock and you need to sell them, you can run a campaign targeting people who, are actually actively searching for Ford Maverick. You can spend money directly on the customer who wants to buy that car right now. SEO should cover parts of that as well, but you can go outside of your market where you're not ranking and go and actively try to get those customers. So it's the most targeted in the sense that you can find somebody in a specific portion of the funnel and try to get them on a specific user experience to get them to convert to your dealership.
Let's talk a little bit about the website user experience relative to converting leads. Like, what role does the website UX play in lead conversion? Where do most dealerships get that wrong? Because they definitely do.
Well, the role that the website user experience plays in converting leads, in my opinion, where most dealers are getting it wrong, is the website user experience is the difference between traffic and leads. You can drive traffic all you want, but if the site is confusing, slow, or cluttered, people won't take action. Where dealerships get it wrong, they try to be everything at once. Too many buttons, too many offers, too many no clear next step, like too many banners and things of that nature. The best sites are super simple. Clear search, clear calls to action, no friction. If someone can't figure out what to do in a few seconds, you already lost them.
I don't know if I ever told the story, and I'll give you guys the short version, but I have a video later this week that talks about 1999 when I got my first digital marketing job with Reynolds & Reynolds. And during the 7 years or whatever it was that I worked there, I got to touch a lot of things, one of which was websites. And Reynolds had acquired a website company, and then they acquired another website company. And all the way back at that time, let's just say it was mid-2000s when I moved on from Reynolds, late 2000, somewhere around there. 2007, maybe. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, I would work with our website team to figure out what we could do within that CMS to radically simplify what came out of the box in most of the templates, because everybody would build off of here's a handful of templates and then you can just stamp out a bunch of sites. But they were all what you guys are just saying right there, Mike. It's too much. It's overload. It's we didn't even talk about conversion optimization at the website level back in those days. But I already knew that the user experience was too cluttered. And here it is. That's the first thing you say. That's still an issue. It boggles my mind that, and I don't blame the dealers. The dealers aren't supposed to be conversion rate optimization specialists. They're supposed to be really good at making you have the best experience buying a car and wanting to come back and get it serviced and tell all your friends, I bought it there because Cody and Mike are the best car sales dudes ever. They're so awesome. I don't want to buy a car anywhere else. I don't want to take my car anywhere else for service. That's their job. The job for you guys, which fortunately you're one of the companies out there that take this seriously, is to help people. Yeah, there's probably a few things you should be doing with your website that will help out. And yet here we are, 20 years later, and it's still what? It boggles my mind. Anyway, Cody, you have thoughts on this topic too? Or Mike, do you have additional thoughts on this?
So we actually looked at a website, got the message saying we don't have enough new car leads. We're like, okay, that's weird because we were crushing it just a couple weeks ago. So we go to the website, Google Analytics, and the new car SRP went from a conversion rate of 5 to 10% to 0. That's odd. Well, how did that happen? Go to the website, and now there's a compliance tool, Comply Auto in this case. So it is taking up more than half the screen when you first land there. And then there's a pop-up tool that has a pop-up window. And then there's a chat window that pops up over that. And on top of the page, there's now a banner for the current promotion. And below that, there is a trade tool. So you have to close 3 different windows and scroll twice with your finger if you're on mobile to see a car. How the heck is a customer going to be like, yeah, I'll close that one. I'll close that one. I'll close that one. Okay, let me scroll. Oh, okay, there's a car finally. And I almost guarantee that chat window is going to pop up again in the next 10 seconds. And yeah, and your response was, our strategy hasn't changed, but your page has. We would recommend deleting the banner at the top of the page because it's not relevant. Like, this is a banner for a specific truck and you're on an SUV page in this case. Not relevant. Get rid of it. Also, is somebody going to click that button to submit a trade? Like, is that the best place for it? And in this case, I don't think so. Nobody's emotionally bought into a vehicle yet because they like the way it looks. So I think that was premature. Chat window on mobile, let's not have it pop open. Like, I get why they do it because the chat KPIs will go up because they'll have engagement metrics. So it's a benefit to their metrics that it opens because then you get more clicks on it. And the compliance tool, it is what it is. I think the disclaimer is huge. I have no idea what's required because I'm not in that niche of what compliance is within that specific cookie consent situation, but it was gigantic. And I don't think I've ever seen one that long. So just in general, it's a terrible user experience, and you get rid of all that, and all of a sudden you're getting conversions again. It's the weirdest thing, Sean. Like, who would have guessed?
Who would have? Like, that's insane. Can we talk about PMax or Performance Max?
Yeah.
I want to know why do these campaigns, like Performance Max campaigns, look good, like on paper, on screen, but in reality, it's just fail army.
Well, one of the big buzzwords in the industry these days is Performance Max. And, so what we're saying is, why the way we're seeing them, perform poorly or not be that awesome is that Performance Max often looks great on paper because it takes credit for everything, not just for what it actually drove. It leans heavily into traffic you are already getting, branded searches, high intent users, and it makes it look like it's performing better than it is. This is something we've been aware of for a while now. We were all into it at the very beginning, and then the more that we dug into it and understood the data, we understood that all these things make the numbers look super strong, but you get low cost, high conversions. But when we really dug into it, it's not actually creating new demand. It's just capturing what was already there. So it's just started going, okay, we're kind of being forced into this because everybody wants you to do it, and the numbers look good, but nobody understands that they're bad, so everybody thinks it's good. And so when you tell them it's bad, they think that you're anyway. So with all this data that we're working with, we understand that the problem isn't really the platform; it's the lack of control and visibility. If you're not separating what's incremental versus what you've already gotten and what you would have already had, you think you're winning, but when you're really just paying for your own traffic that you already had coming to your site. So that's what.
Anything to add on this, Cody?
Yeah, I would agree with Mike. The two biggest things are, number one, it's going to cannibalize a lot of organic search because it's going to find the lowest hanging fruit. And your organic search is covering a big chunk of that already. So it's going to eat into the organic search and just generate conversions that you're now paying for that were previously essentially free. If you want to argue about you're paying for SEO, so it's not totally free. And the other thing is, if you're doing like a full PMax with video, display, search, local, and everything, you will get a lot of leads. And if you went and listened to those actual phone calls, like did call recording, because it's going to generate a lot of calls from ads, it's bots and spam. So it's one of those traps where, just like Mike said, we fell for it initially. The first couple months we're like, wow, cost per lead is ridiculously low. Like, we're getting tons of phone calls, calls from ads, which means the conversation at the dealership happened for more than 60 seconds because that was our cutoff point. But when we went and listened to the calls, we're like, oh my God, most of this is wait time because at a car dealership, you have to go through several layers of, press 1 for this or press 0 for that before you actually talk to somebody. So most of it was waiting through that whole list of trying to get to actually talk to a real person. And then that was pitching them on, you need local SEO services. I was like, oh no. this is all fluff and not helping anybody. And same thing with the store visit metric. It wasn't actually in automotive, it was in a restaurant in your area, actually. Like, we went to the call and, like, again, we were stoked. It was early on at PMAX. We're like, we generated 4,000 store visits off of $500. They're like, no, you didn't. They gained number of plates per day went up, 15, 20%. So it was noticeable difference. It was not 4,000 plates difference. That's even more, because 4,000 store visits should have been multiple plates. Like, you're talking like 8,000 new actual patrons to the business a day. And no, it did not do that. It added, can't remember the number of plates they served per day, but it went up, let's say 30, 40, but not nearly 4,000. So store visits, it's one of those things I take a big grain of salt with. I don't know the metrics for how they actually calculate if it should count or not, but it's a big fluffy one. I don't argue that it's fine to include in your optimization strategy, but I would break it out and pay attention to that metric separately, because it gets really fluffy very easily, where you think you're getting way more customers than you actually are. So it's a good one to pay attention to. Do not combine it with your total conversions, because I don't think it should count as a real hard conversion. It should be more of this is kind of an indicator that performance is good, but not the end all be all.
That's all. You guys just dropped a lot of really good advice there. Let's talk about, you guys don't have to start a prairie fire here, but I'd like to know, what do you guys think is kind of fundamentally broken about our kind of traditional agency models out there?
Well, what I think is fundamentally broken about the traditional agency models out there is that the traditional agency model is built to protect the agency, not grow the client. It's more about, just getting all those sales, as many sales as possible. They're not putting all their effort into getting the best results for each client. At our core, we've flipped that. We don't have a sales arm. We don't care about looking good on a report. We care about whether the phone rings, the forms are working, and the customers are actually converting. If that's broken, nothing else actually matters. So we just concentrate on what actually works, and we do the right things for the right reasons, and then everything falls into place. But that's kind of where we stand on that.
You have additional thoughts on this one, Cody?
I don't know if my answer is going to get cut, but I'm going to say it anyway. So the agency model is based on doing the least amount of work possible for the most amount of revenue for the agency. And this is a conversation I had with the dealership the other day, where they had a partnership where, they kept giving more and more money and getting the same result. And, any business model is the same. Like, you're trying to get the most for the least. And that's every business. We're personally not built that way. We try to over-deliver and try to over-deliver on quality in all places. And our profit margins aren't 75% like that one company trying to pitch Facebook ads. Like, that would be amazing if that was a profit margin. And again, good for them for being able to try to close that deal. But essentially, they're trying to do the least amount of work possible. So they design their own KPIs, or key performance indicators, and they convince the whole industry that these are the KPIs that they should be focused on, because that made it the least amount of friction possible to keep them employed as an agency, while not necessarily having to be held accountable for the actual results. Because if their KPIs look good, because they convince you these are the KPIs that you should focus on, then they don't have to worry about actually impacting the dealership. And the whole industry is based off of doing that. And again, I don't know if this will get cut, because this is kind of putting too much friction on the whole system. But we take it very personal and very serious for the results that we're trying to drive. And we have account managers. Mike's big thing is, you can't teach give a shit. And every single account manager has to give a shit, or else they're no longer an account manager. They have to actually care about the results and care about what the impact of the dealership or any business is, because we don't want to sell fluff. We want to sell solutions that actually helps people. And that's not always the case. There's a lot of misleading to maintain revenue.
Yeah, I don't think you should be too worried about needing to cut content. This is actually the kind of stuff that doesn't need to be cut. It's the stuff that, the end users that need the truth actually need to hear. It doesn't need to be suppressed. Even when it's controversial, a lot of people don't want to, stir up the water, but sometimes you got to stir it up. So
Actually, I have a follow-up to that.
Yeah, do it.
This is probably too much into the weeds again. Mike has put us on sales freezes because he wanted processes to change. So we went on hiatus from selling any deals for months on end because he did not feel like we were delivering the level of service he expects. So we've, the longest one I think has been 6 months where he said, no new deals until we actually have 100% customer service and are delivering on everything that we promised we're going to deliver on. And that's just because Mike's the owner. He can choose that. He can choose that revenue growth is paused until everything is fixed. And that's one of those unique things that other agency models you just couldn't do. You have other people on the board, you have things going on, and it's unique, definitely unique to us because, like Mike said, we don't have salespeople. He gets to choose if we're selling or not because nobody else has to worry about their paycheck.
Yeah, that is actually a massive little addition that you threw in there, and I personally love it because I run my business like that. But a lot of people, especially work for a big corporation, or if you have any investors behind you, you are not getting to make decisions like that. You are never getting to say, "Hey, we have a freeze on new deals until we make sure that everything's tightened up. The level of service and deliverables that we expect have to be here, and there's no sense in us growing when we're growing into providing shit results or whatever." Not saying that that's where you were, but just realizing, hey, our standard, if we grow too much, that's a normal outcome for businesses that are like, we got to grow, we got to put more top line revenue on the books, we got to go hire more salespeople, we got to do all these things. And they get into that frenzy where they feel like that's how we're winning. And they do not realize that at the same time, they are literally making their existing customers, which are the easiest ones to stay focused on because you already have them, to make sure that you never lose them. And that's essentially what you're saying, is that's a story of, I don't want to lose what we have. And so our expectation level has to be here. That's amazing. I freaking love that. I want to throw in some F-bombs, but I'm not going to. I don't want to sauce up the episode a little too effing much, but damn, that's good stuff. Okay, so what about you guys? What changes do you guys make, or are you making, to fix or even make sure that some of these kind of institutional agency issues even show up? What do you guys do there to make sure that they are kind of handled in real time or maybe never even get established?
So this is an ongoing thing for us always. So, the changes that we make as an agency to set ourselves aside is making sure that what we're doing actually works, right? So, to do that, you have to be able to take full ownership of success, and you have to create standard operating procedures for every service you provide so that you're doing everything in a certain way every single time. So it's like counting money. If you have a job where you have to, or you own a business where you have to count cash every single day, every single piece of that has to be done in a routine way every single time, so that if something doesn't come up right, you're being able to find the solution based off of the standard operating procedure. So we have to be able to look at a list of what we're supposed to be doing one by one and go through that list to make sure everything's done. If everything is done in that list, then you have to go back through and change that list. But most of the time, there's something in that list that's not being done right. So the way that we are making changes is making sure that all of our standard operating procedures are up to date. If they're not up to date and the things aren't working, we have to stop everything we're doing and fix them. And we can't fix them all at the same time. You have to do it step by step. So it's taking one at a time, so people aren't getting overwhelmed with being able to do all these things at the same time. It's the same thing about using banners. You don't want to get them lost in cognitive dissonance. So the big thing is just getting people concentrated on certain piece. So you do every single piece the right way, so you have a strong foundation. So the things that we're doing is just creating standard operating procedure libraries for every service that we provide and everything that we do in our business, so that everything we do is going towards getting our clients to make more money. And it's not about us trying to make more money for ourselves. So it's not about trying to sell stuff all the time. It's about getting the best results possible for our current clients so that they tell other people that we get them good results, because that's how we get more business.
Cody?
I'm going to go controversial again.
Start a fire. Prayer fire. Here we go.
Company perception wise, like I'm always presented as the nerd and Mike's always presented as a customer service person. But Mike's actually this ridiculous nerd that you don't get to see very often. Like when VR first came out, Mike made his own Minecraft VR game. And that the reason why that matters now is Mike made his own data lake and is able to parse data and use his own prompts off of his own data lake, which, Mike doesn't talk about this. He doesn't present himself as a nerd, but the fact that he went and designed his own system to go and be able to prompt off of everything he needs to run the business is just outrageous. Like, you don't hear this type of stuff coming from people, and Mike doesn't even talk about it, which again, this is controversial because he doesn't talk about it. But, that's the biggest way that we're changing. Like, it's coming from the top down, where Mike realized that he needed enhancements to be even better than what he was, because Mike has always been a great leader. And the fact that he went and came up with his own system and developed his own strategy and developed his own prompts and tools on top of everything and does not brag about it to anybody, like, that just shows you the kind of person he is. So Mike is fixing it by building these systems and building his own data lake, his own strategy, his own comprehensive overview of the company that just does not exist. And on top of that, going with Mike's answer, like, the level of training that we're going to all the way down is, intense. Like, we expect a lot from our account managers and we expect a lot from our technology, but that comes from the top down, where Mike himself is taking personal accountability to do all those things.
The fact that you are building, and I won't extend too much of your controversial insert here or there, Cody, but highlighting the fact, Mike, that you have built a custom system. And when I say custom, it's built for your company, your people, your technology, right? I am such a huge fan of that. Maybe I'm doing that myself a little bit. I love that. I think that that's so critically important because it keeps you locked into what you were just talking about with your SOPs, your standard operating procedures. And a lot of times people don't actually get the backstage tour. They don't see under the hood and really what makes something spark, what makes something go. They might just get a little flavor of, like, there's something different about, what's different about these guys? Like, what's different about that company? But they don't always end up finding out. And that's a very interesting little tidbit. Not surprised to hear it, but that's the first time it's been disclosed to me. And I know you guys pretty well. And so I love that. It makes all the sense in the world, and I think it's really smart. Really smart.
On the Minecraft thing, what he's talking about is that there wasn't a version that you could do on AI, and my son was addicted to Minecraft, and he wanted a version so bad. I found a way to create a AI version, or a virtual reality version of that game, and we ended up being able to play it like that, where you're actually jumping around and breaking blocks and stuff. So
yeah.
So, like, if your kids want something, you do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Boy, that's true. That's true. I hope my kids tune into this episode. No.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them is already tuned in. You never know. But okay, so here's a good one for you guys as we get to the last couple of questions here that I have for you today. Why are the hard conversations critical in business, and why do most leaders in the team avoid them?
So I actually love this question. The question is, why are the hard conversations so critical in business? I love that. And why do the leaders avoid it? Most leaders avoid them. Well, like, when we first talk to anybody that's interested in doing business with us, we let them know at the very beginning, like, we're not going to just turn a switch on and everything's going to work. You're going to have some aggressive goals, and we're going to have to do aggressive things to get to them. So it's going to require hard conversations where progress actually happens. That's what we tell them at the very beginning. Like, we're not going to have the best results every single time, all the time. It's going to take us working on things breaking, things not working, because we're having to rely on customer behavior and actual human beings doing things. And, you can't control exactly what they're going to do all the time. So you have to be able to have those hard conversations, not give up on each other. If something falls off, like performance, or any of it, you have, if there's anything missing in accountability, expectations, you have to address it directly. If you don't, it's not going to fix itself. It's just going to get worse and worse. So that's why you always have to have the hard conversations. I tell every single person that we talk to at the very beginning, don't think that you're just going to turn this on and it's going to be super exciting and sell everything for you. This is going to be work, just like anything that's worth anything. We have to have the hard conversations together to come up with solutions, understand what's working and what's not working. Because just on reports alone, if you're just going by that doesn't solve everything. You have to have the conversations, efficient communication. And I think, a lot of people avoid it because they want to just concentrate, just make it look like they're doing a 100% job 100% of the time. And it's impossible. It is impossible. It's you can't do it 100% of the time, except for customer service. We do that 100% of the time. Anyway, but so, but if there's confusion or frustration, things like that, I don't believe in letting it drag out. I believe in throwing it out into the atmosphere, talking about it, getting through it, and then reality becomes simple. Being clear is actually kind when it comes down to it. It feels harsh at the time, but when you're unclear, that's when things break. When everybody's not speaking the same language to each other. And I don't, and what I mean by that is that we all have the same goal, moving in the same direction together. When things are falling off, we call each other out, not in a bad way, in a respectful, efficient communication way. Find solutions where we're not looking good, we make it look good. Where it's looking great, we make it look greater. It's things like that.
So before Cody, definitely chamber your round. I want your insight here, but I want to interject something because just listening to you, Mike, it made me think of one of the posts that I prepared of things that I want to push out this week. I think is really relative to something that you just said. And this post that I have coming out later this week is about how trust is the game. Like, so many people are playing the wrong game. And what you just shared is what builds trust with your existing customers, and it builds trust with people before they decide, hey, I want to work with these guys, or I even want to talk to these people. The technology around us changes dramatically every decade, if not even more frequently than that. But that's not the game. The game is trust. The technology just kind of decides who's going to win the trust game and how they do it. And the fact that you just said that the reality is you can't be perfect 100% of the time is true. Yeah. Because we don't control all the platforms, right? Yeah. We control how they get used. But we do have control over whether or not we build trust with the people that give it to us and have an expectation of us that they should be able to have of us. And that transcends so much of the other bullshit that people will do because you just tell them the truth. The reality is, sometimes you're going to, if you've got the right vendors, sometimes, if it's most of the time, wrong vendor. If sometimes they say, this wasn't a great month, it was off.
Yeah.
We've figured out a couple of the reasons. We're working on what are some of the other reasons because that's why you hired us, right? Yeah. You can't just, if it was like a effing light switch, you would have hired us, turned it on, and it just stays on forever. We're just going to keep the lights on forever. That's not reality. And so I love that you share that because I think it's really, really critical for people when they're looking for business partners or if they're already working with you guys, that they're working with companies that actually can articulate that and say it in public. Most people won't even do it. We're amazing all the time. And oh, by the way, you can have 100% customer service 100% of the time. Why? Because that is an element. That's an element of your business that you can control. You don't control
Yeah.
the Facebook algorithm, right? But
Yeah.
you control whether or not your people are being good humans, doing the right things for the right reasons. That's why you guys are who you are. So anyway, Cody,
Right.
on to you.
Oh, this is going back to another example. I don't know if you were on the dealer refresh forums back in the day, but there's a guy named Uncle Joe on there.
Oh yeah, I know
And
who that is. I know who you're talking about.
he came to us with an idea for a strategy, and my response was, the KPIs suck for that. I don't know why you'd want to do that. And he said, too bad. So, fair enough. So we built a strategy, the absolute, like if we're going to do it, we're going to go 100%. So we built a strategy, as comprehensive as possible for what it was going to do. And the KPIs on our side look bad. Like if you're looking at cost per lead looks huge. If you're looking at, cost per click looks huge. But in the strategy, they went from, previously in the strategy, they're selling 1 car per month on it. Now they're selling 5 off of $500 ad spend consistently. So I have to go eat crow because my KPIs are lying, saying this can't work. It doesn't work. There's no way it could work, but it is in fact working at the dealership level and having those hard conversations of, I want to try this. You guys have never tried this before, so don't tell me it's not going to work because it's different now. Like my store is different. In fact, he was 100% right, and I had to go and eat crow. That like, okay, we'll continue the strategy. Like KPIs look trash. We take it out from our regular reporting and report it separately because it's not going to ever look good. But the reality is, as long as it's selling cars consistently, it doesn't matter. It's its own separate ecosystem of the data does not match reality.
Yeah.
Uncle Joe definitely is one of the brighter bulbs in the retail side of our business. That's for sure.
And he's a data whore. Joe.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
I'll say it out loud. I'll say it out loud, man. He just is, and it's, it's helped us a lot because we grow together with him. So, and that's what Cody was talking about, is having those hard conversations with people who take it seriously. They're not just throwing surface level crap at you. They're digging into the data and seeing opportunity for things. And so you got to just, even when it feels off balance to you, you got to go for it because there's got to be something there. You got to at least try it. You got to go for it.
100%. I've always been in favor of, even in my previous corporate roles, I was kind of the guy, give me the customers that you think are difficult. I want those ones because usually those are the customers actually that are leaning in. They're still your customer, right? You still but they're leaning in and they're challenging you, or they're challenging the company. Will you do this?
Yeah.
The more of those you can have, the better off you are, because they are treating you like what everyone says they are, but they aren't. A partner. They're saying, hey, you have the brains. You have not just the marketing brains, you have the marketing hands to think with me and now do for me. And I want to participate in this because we're partners.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. And I think people should covet having as many of those types of customers. Turn all of your customers into those types of, I don't want to deal with them. The people that don't want to deal with customers like that, they're literally your customer. I don't want to deal with that. They probably shouldn't even have a job with your company, because that's somebody that you were not able to teach how to give a shit.
Exactly. And I 100% agree with that. I like how you went to that. But also, so as a bartender, that's where it started for me, is that, you get these hard, heavy guests that come in asking for these cocktails. And this was like pre motorcycle mustache and skinny jeans for craft cocktails. This was like people would just order drinks, and the hardest guests that people could never satisfy, those are my favorite, because I want those real conversations. So I make something, they say, oh no, I don't like the taste of cherry in that. I don't like the taste of this and that. And then I'll make it exactly the way that person wants, based off of their true data.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up getting the best cocktail that they could possibly have just off of that. And that is exactly what we're talking about with that. So I love that you brought that up and reminded me about one of the things that made me be considered a good bartender at the time.
Yeah. Working together and working hard and being challenged to work hard to accomplish something that has at the end result a complete focus on a customer, like
Yeah.
making a difference for them,
Yeah.
it's like the best. It's the best thing. Well, hey, listen, audience, if there's one thing to take away from today's conversation, it's well, there's a lot of things, but there's just one thing I want to mention is like we talked a lot about how there's a lot of stuff at the top of the episode, marketing that looks really good. That doesn't mean it's the same as marketing that actually works. And there's a lot of different areas that we covered through talking PMAX and SEO and the social side and your website and a lot of different areas that you need to be paying attention. So, hey, if you have somebody on your team that might benefit from hearing this conversation, share it with them. Vanity metrics aren't going to grow your dealership. Accountability will. Systems will. Most importantly, if you get honest in what the data is actually telling you, well, that'll help too. Mike, Cody, thank you guys. Always enjoy these conversations. You guys always bring such like street level, real clarity and truth into our automotive space that is always dying for more of it. So I always appreciate that. Audience, if you found the value in this episode that you should have, please share it again with somebody on your team, somebody outside of your team. If you're not following SEMD on LinkedIn, please do that. Even more importantly, go and follow and connect with Mike and Cody on LinkedIn. It's a smart move in your networking choices. And before you know it, we'll be right back here with another episode of The Rounds. Until then, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.